Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Hatha practice. A few props that'll be handy for today. I'd suggest having a couple of your hard blocks nearby, and then either a soft block or maybe a blanket, something you can cushion the knees and stuff. And when you're ready, we'll get started on the back in a butterfly shape. If there's something else that feels more comfortable for you today that you'd rather start in, then go for it. Otherwise, come to lying on the back, and you might choose to have your blocks nearby for this, maybe placing one under each knee as you separate the knees nice and wide. And then take your time to find your version of the shape or any other quiet symmetrical shape. You can play with the proportions here. Maybe the feet are close to the body, maybe they're further away. See where you'd like the arms as well. They can be beside you, and to the floor overhead, or somewhere on the body. And then if there's any part of you that needs a little more support here, and take some time to add it in. And if and when it feels okay to do so, close down your eyes and start to check in here. And as you check in with the body, start to notice your breath. And gently we'll start to deepen the breath here. I'm going to count to starting with a 4 count, but if you need something a little faster, a little slower, then feel free to change it up. But start off by emptying all the air out of the body. And then start a slow inhale for 2, 3, 4. Brief pause, and then exhale for 2, 3, 4. Inhale for 2, 3, 4. Pause. And exhale for 2, 3, 4. Pause. And inhale for 2, 3, 4. Pause. And exhale for 2, 3, 4. Option to add on. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Pause. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep going with your breath. Always the option to add another second or two if you like to. Notice if the mind starts to wander. About 1 more minute here. wherever you are on your next inhale breath, take a brief pause at the top and then open mouth sigh. And again, deep inhale. Let it go. And last one, biggest one. And then release the arms from wherever they are. Give the wrists a few turns in each direction. And then if you're in butterfly, then reach down, help the legs together. You can move your props out of the way and then give the feet a windshield wiper side to side. Awesome. When you feel ready to, you can bring the legs back to center and then extend the legs long down the mat. And you can keep the arms where they are, extend them up the mat, and then walk your feet towards the bottom left corner and walk your hands towards the top left corner until you're in a banana shape with the body. And some people, this won't work with the arms extended. If you're feeling pinching in the shoulders, you can also explore bending the arms. You could also work with just the legs or just the arms if that's better. Settling in here, noticing the stretch for the whole right side of the body. Imagine you can send the breath to it. And slowly walking everything back to center. And then feet towards the bottom right, arms towards the top right. Notice what the left side needs and breathe into it. And slowly bringing everything back to center. Now collect the knees into your chest and wrap the arms around them. You can lift the forehead towards the knees and then give your spine a little movement here, maybe side to side or up and down the spine, mindful of the neck wherever you are. Maybe a few circles, one direction with the low back and then the other. Awesome. And then when you're ready, hands behind the knees, start to rock up and down the length of the spine. And doing this a few times to build up momentum and then coming up towards a seat. And from here, you can find easy pose, cross-legged, just find any comfortable seated position, maybe sitting up off of one of your props. And then take a moment here, ground down whatever's touching the floor, and then lengthen the spine. Neck is long, chin can stay tucked slightly. And then from this length, take an inhale breath, circle the arms up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, bring the hands down towards the shoulders, and then release down towards the floor. And then inhale, circle up. And fingertips towards the shoulders, and then release hands. A few more. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, fingertips just to the shoulders, and then we'll pause there. So you can stay and work with hands to the shoulders. You could also interlace hands behind the skull. Just make sure you're not putting too much pressure on your neck if you're taking that option. And then we'll twist with breath here. So as you inhale, turn the chest towards the left, any amount. And then as you exhale, come over towards the right. And see if you can move nice and slow, inhaling, circling left. And exhale towards the right. A few more with your breath. Last two. And the next time you inhale, come to center, give the arms a little bit of a shake out. And then from here, you can remove any props and we'll swing the legs around. Come and find a tabletop position. Hands roughly under the shoulders, knees roughly underneath the hips. And we won't stay, we're going to head to a forearm plank. So you can lower the elbows down to the floor. Forearms can be parallel or hands together. And take a moment to set up this V shape with the arms if the hands are together. And really press down the elbows to the floor, really press the hands into the floor. Find some stability here in the shoulders. And then when you feel ready, you can step the feet back to the back of the mat. Always the option to lower the knees if you want more support. If there's pressure in the low back, think about using the legs more, maybe even lifting the bum a little higher in space. And then find that length from the heels to the crown of the head. Awesome. Last few breaths here. Maybe the face can soften a little bit. If you need a few more breaths, feel free to stay. Otherwise, when you're ready, one knee then the other, come back underneath you. And then keeping the knees roughly underneath the hips, and start to walk your hands forward in space for a puppy dog pose. And lowering the chest, the chin, or the forehead towards the floor, any amount. And then keep the arms active here, so keep the finger pads plugging into the floor. And then imagine length through that whole front line of the body, from the belly button to the chest and to the neck. And breathe here. Awesome. When you feel ready, slowly walk the hands back in, lift yourself up to a tabletop position. From your tabletop, just give the spine a little movement here, give the shoulders a little movement. Awesome. And then starting from your tabletop position, step the right foot to the back of the mat. And then from here, you can lower down onto that left elbow. Think about walking the right hand a little further in space, and then pause here for a moment. So the right arm is forward, the right leg is back. Now take the right foot across the body over to the left, any amount. And then you can stay here if this feels like plenty, or start to tiptoe the right hand over to the left as well, until you're finding a side stretch to the whole right side of the body. You can even lean the hips a little bit towards the right. Sometimes what happens is the pelvis starts to tilt open, and then you might lose the connection of the stretch, but see what it feels like in your body. Awesome. And from your side stretch, slowly walk the right hand back, walk the right leg back. And then if you're on the left elbow, lift up onto the hand. Now kickstand the left foot out to the left and drop the right heel to the floor. Awesome. Now from here, you can come up any way you like. Just take a moment to set up. So right toes are pointing to the front of you. If the left knee needs some padding, please add some. And then from here, right hand to the right hip, left arm reaches towards the ceiling. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, arc over towards the right. I'm finding that stretch now from the left knee all the way up the left-hand side. Left arm can be extended. If it feels better to bend the elbow and catch the head, then go for it. Breathe here. Awesome. Inhale, breath, come on up. And then bring the hands down to the floor. So hands and left leg almost like a tabletop position, and see what it feels like to try to lift the right foot up off the floor. And maybe it just comes up like an inch, maybe the toe stays down but the heel is lifted, but just see what it feels like. And no matter how high you're lifting, maybe flex the foot and see if that helps you activate the muscles all along the leg. Last few deep breaths here. If you want to lift it a little higher, go for it. Make sure you're still breathing. All right, when you're ready, lower the foot back down. And then from here, we'll collect that right leg back in and then turn back towards the front of the mat. Now set yourself up, hands underneath the shoulders, once again, knees underneath the hips, except this time tuck the toes under. And now press the hands and the feet down, lift the knees up just about an inch up off the floor. Find that support for the shoulders. Notice it feels like the spine's hanging. See what you can do to firm that space up. And then notice the face again. If it's starting to scrunch up, maybe you can soften it a little. Now, option to stay here for a few more breaths, but whenever you feel ready, drop the knees to the floor and send the hips towards the heels, and maybe lower the forehead, the chest down as well. In child's pose, find your expression. If your body's not quite ready for stillness, then maybe a little rocking here, maybe some other movement like cat-cow. And see if you need a little longer and rest. And whenever you feel ready to, maybe taking a couple breaths to get there, make your way back to a tabletop position. And check in. If you need a stretch along the way, then go for it. Awesome. And once you've made your way to tabletop, and step the left foot to the back of the mat. Maybe lower the right elbow down to the floor. Now, just like we did on the first side, now we'll take the left foot across the body over to the right. And then maybe stay here, maybe reach the left arm forward, maybe start to walk the left fingertips over towards the right as well. This side may end up feeling a little different. So again, see what the pelvis is doing. Is it turned down? Is it turned up? And what feels like a better stretch? And feel free to explore. Breathing into whatever you're feeling through that whole left side. Awesome. When you feel ready, you can slowly walk the hand back, walk the foot back. If you're on the right elbow, then come onto the right hand, and then kickstand right foot to the right, drop the left heel down, and take a moment to find your balance, and when you're ready, you can come on up. So left toes pointing in front of you, and then from here, left hand to the left hip, right arm to the ceiling. Take a deep inhale, lengthen, and as you exhale over to the left. Again, right arm can be extended or you can bend. Notice the stretch of the whole right side. With a strong belly, inhale breath, come on up, and then bring the hands down to the floor in front of you. Hands roughly under the shoulders, right knee underneath the right hip, and then explore, see what this side feels like. Maybe lifting the heel, maybe lifting the whole foot. Notice what that does to the shoulders and the rest of the body. See if you can keep some balance to how much pressure each hand is pressing to the floor. And then see where you want to be. Maybe flex the left foot. Maybe you're hovering low. Maybe you can lift a little higher. And breathe here. Awesome. Left foot lowers to the floor. And then you can bring the left knee to center and turn yourself back towards the front of the mat. Sweet. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. This time, tops of the feet press into the floor. And see what it feels like to press the tops of the feet and the hands. And then with an inhale, lift the knees about an inch up off the floor. Breathe here. Last few. Awesome. And then lower the knees to the floor. Hips towards the heels. This time come and find a kneeling shape. So rock pose if that works for you. You can also use props for extra support. And if the shape doesn't work, then a different rest shape. Maybe closing down the eyes here, finding your breath, seeing what feels maybe a little tense, what can soften. And if you need a little more time in rest, if you need more time in stillness, then feel free to stay. Otherwise, we'll set up here. So if you are using blocks today, you can have one at each end of the mat just so that they're handy if and when you might need them. And then when you're ready to transition to the next shape, come to a tabletop position. And we'll step the left foot forward between the hands. And setting up a low lunge here, so hands might stay roughly under the shoulders and we'll keep them down the whole time. But see what it feels like to lift the back knee up off the floor. Now, with the back knee lifted, imagine the pelvis getting like a little bit heavier here and just see what that stretch feels like. You might be feeling this through the top of the right leg and into the hip flexor. Another option would be to lower the back knee down, but take it further back in space than where it was before, and you might do that a couple of times. Maybe you're feeling that a little more in the front hip. Wherever you are, take a few deep breaths, find the stretch that you need. Awesome. And then when you feel ready, we'll lift the back knee up if it isn't already. Spin the right heel to the floor, right toes point right. And then find your block with the left hand and left hand near the left heel, underneath the left shoulder, and reach the right arm up towards the ceiling. So one option you can work from here. The other option is to take the left elbow to the left thigh. But either way, reach the right fingertips towards the front of the room. And now stay in your extended side angle shape, but take an inhale breath and circle the top arm towards the ceiling, then towards the back. And then as you exhale, almost like you're grazing the floor with the right fingertips, turn the chest down. Inhale, reach forward, then up towards the back. And then exhale, turn it in, and fingertips and drag near the floor. Inhale. And exhale. A few more. Last full round. Now with a strong belly as you circle, inhale, come all the way up, right hand to the right hip, left arm to the ceiling, reach up and back, stretch out that left side. All right, one last inhale, maybe bend the left knee a little deeper, and last exhale. Inhale, breath, come on up, and then exhale, bring the hands down to the floor on the inside of the left leg. So right foot stays the way it is, and if the floor is too far away, you're welcome to use your prop here to bring it a little closer. We're going to play with a version of Humble Warrior. For this one, Warrior 2 style legs, and then start to walk the hands towards or just beyond the top right corner of the mat. Now we're looking for almost a down dog shape for the upper body, so if you find that the hips are quite low, you might explore even backing out of the front knee a little bit so that the hips can lift, which might allow you to dip the chest a little deeper. And check in with the shoulders, make sure they feel adequately supported, and the hands are actively pressing into the floor. Head can hang heavy if that works for you, and notice where the pelvis is in space. If it started to swing out behind you, and keep the legs active, and keep that left knee pointing mostly forward. And stay here, take a deep inhale, sigh it out. Once more. And with an inhale breath, start to walk the hands back in. As you exhale, hands halfway down towards the right, extend the left leg and then parallel the feet. And setting up for a wide-legged forward, find your halfway lift spine and lengthen. And when you're ready, with an exhale, start to hinge and fold over the legs. Again, a prop might be handy here if the floor is a little far away or if the low back feels sensitive. And an option for today's variation is to take the hands to the floor and then walk the hands forward in space slightly, press the hands away, and then curl the toes up off the floor, maybe even curl the ball of each foot up off the floor, so you're just grounding down through the hands and the heels. And if you found this, then now press the hips back in space and see what that feels like through the backs of the legs. All right, if the feet are lifted, lower them. Bring your weight forward. And now walk the hands towards the back corner of the mat. Spin all 10 toes towards the back, and we'll lower the left knee down now, setting a low lunge. Awesome. Left hand can find the floor, maybe a little to the left. And then right foot can point forward. You can point it out a little, and if you need more space, take it to the right like a lizard lunge. Right hand to the right hip. Take a moment to set that left shoulder, so maybe a slight external rotation so that you really feel supported on that side. And then with an inhale, turn the chest open towards the right, finding a twist. Right hand can stay. You can reach it towards the ceiling, maybe a half bind if you like. And breathe here. For the next few breaths, option as well if you like to lift up the back knee, powering up. Stay in your twist. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale, hands find the floor. And step forward to a forward fold. The hips might like a little movement here. You can also play with bending and extending opposite leg. See if there's an arm expression you'd like to add on. And see if there's anything that's holding from one of the last shapes we did, and see if you can let that go. Notice the head, the neck, and the shoulders. Is there anything that can soften there? If you have a bind, you can let that go. Bring the hands to the legs. Take an inhale breath. Halfway lift, lengthen, and sigh it out. Again, inhale. Exhale. Last one. And to transition, inhale, halfway lift. Now step the left foot all the way to the back of the mat. And lower the left knee to the floor. Fingertips stay on the floor. And then mirror whatever you did on the first side. So you might start off here. You might start off with the back knee lifted and find a little weight to the pelvis. You can explore that thing where you shift that left knee a little further back in space. We're here for about 8 breaths, so maybe a variation of the two. Awesome. If the back knee is lowered, lift it up and then spin the left heel to the floor. Left toes point towards the left. Maybe find your block and set it to the inside of the right foot, grounding down through the right hand, reaching the left arm up to the ceiling for extended side angle. And the option again to take the right elbow to the thigh instead. Reaching the left arm towards the front of the room, and then stay here. Take an inhale, reach the arm towards the top, then towards the back. As you exhale, turn the chest down, skim the floor with the fingertips. Reach forward, and then inhale, circle, and exhale, circle. And as big a circle as you can make, keep going with your breath. Last couple. And strong belly, ride the inhale, come all the way up. Left hand to the left hip, arc back. Stretch the whole right side. Maybe the right knee can bend a little deeper. And stay here. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, come all the way up. And then hands find the floor to the inside of that right foot. Block might be handy, or work with your hands and keep the legs as they are. Start to walk the hands forward in space. Maybe lifting the hips a little so that you can lower the chest and keep the hands actively pressing the floor away. Keep the feet active as well to keep the pelvis mostly in center. Breathe here. And slowly, with an inhale, start to walk the hands back in. And then walking the hands to center, extend the right leg and parallel the feet. A spine in a halfway lift point, maybe fingertips or blocks. Take a deep inhale. And then when you feel ready, you start to hinge and fold over the legs. Option to stay with this kind of traditional forward fold shape. If you want to explore the version we did on the first round, then hands find the floor and start to walk the hands forward. Almost think like down dog, upper body, and then curl the toes up. Maybe the ball of the foot curls up, and press the hands, press the heels, and shift the hips back in space. Finding that length and stretch through the sides of the body, that length and stretch through the backs of the legs. Notice if the shoulders are shrugging up near the ears. Can you find a little length in the neck? Last few breaths. And then lowering the feet to the floor, walking the hands back in. Now spin all 10 toes towards the old front of the mat and lower the right knee down. And see what the shape feels like. Do you want to take the left foot to the left a little bit? Do you want to block for the right hand? Either way, plug down through the right side, find some stability, maybe a slight external rotation for the right shoulder. Left hand to the left hip, start to turn the chest open with an inhale, find your twist. Left arm can stay, it can reach. Half bind, mirror whatever you did on the first side. And for the last few breaths, if you did so on the other side, lift that back knee up, power up. Awesome. Lowering the left hand to the floor, lower the back knee, and step the left foot back, and we'll press the hips back for child's pose. And see what you need here. Take your time to set up. Maybe knees are nice and wide, maybe they're close together, maybe something to support the forehead. We'll find the arm expression that feels best and settle in. Maybe a little movement for the hips here. Maybe a little rock of the head, massaging the eyebrows. When you feel ready to move again, slowly make your way up to a tabletop position. And setting the hands roughly underneath the shoulders, knees roughly underneath the hips. Now tuck the feet under and press hands and feet to the floor. Lift the knees about an inch up off the floor. Length from tailbone to crown, stability for the shoulders. A soft face, breathe. All right, if the knees are lifted, option to stay a few more breaths, or if you're ready, lower them down and walk the hands in towards the knees, and then look around for your props. Toes can stay tucked. You can also untuck them here, and then walk hips towards the heels and bring the hands just behind you. So any prop setting for the blocks, if you're using kind of the thinner blocks, it might feel a little wobbly on this setting. So in any case, whatever you choose, just make sure it feels somewhat stable. And you can start with the hands relatively far back, but from here, start to lift the pelvis up and then press the pelvis, the belly button towards the front, and you can walk the blocks a little closer if you need to, or move them further away. And breathe here. Find that space through the whole front line of the body. The legs stay strong and active here, supporting you. And chin can stay tucked. Head could go back if that's an option, maybe just a few breaths at a time. And keep breathing that space. Awesome. Slowly lower the hips back down. And then pause here for a moment, maybe hands on the lap. Maybe you need stillness. Maybe you need a seated cat-cow a few rounds or some gentle twists. And be wherever you need to be. And if you have props nearby, you can move them out of the way and then swing the legs around. Stretch out the legs for a moment. Just give them a moment to relax. Maybe tap the backs of the knees or swish the feet side to side. And then from here, scoop the flesh of the bum out of the way. Maybe bring the feet a little bit closer. And then set up for boat pose. So hands can start off at the knees or behind them. The feet don't have to leave the floor. Keep that space going across the chest. And then option to come to tippy toes or to hover the feet, maybe near the floor, shins parallel if you prefer. Option to release the arms for more challenge. Option to extend the legs here as well. Be in your version of boat pose. Notice with the face again, if the lips are puckered, if the forehead is frowned, can you soften? And from here, we'll lower onto the back, so you can either bring the feet down first, or if you like to explore extending the and go for that instead. Once you find yourself on the back, you can walk the feet in so that they're roughly underneath the knees. And then set the elbows up by the rib cage, fingertips towards the ceiling. And setting up for a bridge pose, and start to ground down through the shoulders and through the feet. And with an inhale breath, lift the pelvis, lift the belly. This might feel like a good place to stay, and you can. If you prefer to extend the arms, either to grip the mat or to press the hands down, maybe to walk the shoulders a little closer, perhaps a bind. And check in with the knees. Do they feel adequately supported? And if there's any pinching, you can lower. You could also play with coming to tippy toes or just being on the heels. See if one works better than the other for you. Make sure you're still breathing. Option to stay for up to 5 more breaths. And whenever you feel ready, you can release the arms first if you have a bind. You can lower the pelvis down. And once you do exit, it might feel nice to take the feet wide and rest the knees together, hands somewhere on the body. And no rush if you're still in the pose. And we'll set up for one more round of back bend. So a few options from here. I'm going to talk through wheel pose. You can also do bridge pose like we just did. And I'll also show an example of a restorative bridge shape in case you wanted something less active for the second round. So if you're coming with me to wheel pose, we'll set up roughly the way we set up for bridge pose, at least the lower body. So feet roughly underneath the knees, really connect the soles of the feet into the floor, maybe grip the toe pads into the floor as well. And then take the hands up near the shoulders, near the head, fingers pointing towards the feet. And then, I don't know if you can see this, but for me, what happens is that the whole palm of my hand doesn't want to touch the ground. So, especially the thumb side tries to lift up. And because I want to have as much connection as possible when I'm in wheel pose, I'm going to take a pause on my head to readjust the arms. So not everybody needs to do that, but that's how I'm going to talk through it for myself. So starting off with the hands as connected to the floor as you can. And then from here, we'll press down through the feet, lift the pelvis, and then see if we can lift and touch the top of the head onto the floor. So inhale, breath, press hand and feet down, lift up, touch the top of the head. And giving yourself as little pressure for the neck as you can adjust the arms now. Maybe you can connect the whole hand to the floor and then really press up through the arms, lift yourself the rest of the way up. And then see where you end up here, see where your weight is. Sometimes it feels good to pulse a little bit forward and back, almost like a massage for the body. But keep the legs super active. If it's better to be on the tippy toes for you, then go for it. And breathe here. The head can hang nice and heavy. And see how long you want to stay. But when you feel ready to come out, we'll exit the way we came in, but we'll skip the top of the head. So lower straight down onto the shoulders, not onto the neck. Let the spine sequence down to the floor. And then feet wide, knees together, pause, maybe hands on the body. And give your body a little time to integrate. Notice. If you're really happy here and you want to stay in stillness a little while longer, then please do. Otherwise, when you feel ready to move, bring the knees so that they're on top of the feet once again, and then find either one or both of your props and take them to the right-hand side. And then from here, we'll play with a version of a pose called cat pulling its tail. So for this one, we're going to take the hips a little bit to the left, extend the right leg long down the mat, and then we'll guide that left knee across the body, maybe touching it to the prop. But we're on the outer side of that right leg here, and the option is to bend the bottom knee as well. Maybe you can catch that right foot with the left hand, and then the right knee, or the left knee is in the right hand. So if this pose works for you, great. If for any reason this isn't working for the spine or the pelvis, feel free to take the traditional two-knee twist instead. But if you're happy here, then settle in. If any other part of the body needs a little more support, then go for it. And if you like to twist further up into the spine, you can take the gaze down towards the left. If the head is turned, bring it back to center first, and then slowly release the legs. You can let them extend long down the mat. Hips to center, and just give yourself a moment here. Maybe swish feet, or you can windshield wiper a little bit. When you're ready to set up the second side, you can take your prop over to the left now, and hips over to the right a little bit. And left leg extends, start to guide the right knee across the body and over to the left, maybe to land on your prop. And then you're lying on the outside of that left leg. You can bend the left knee, perhaps to catch the foot with the right hand. And check in, this side may end up feeling a little different to the first side. The option to add the neck twist, or if you want to add more padding, maybe for the right shoulder, maybe something for the head, then go for it. And gently release the legs, bring the head back to center. Bringing the pelvis back to center. And then maybe again, windshield wiper for a few rounds. Maybe you're pausing in stillness. Be wherever you need to be. Awesome. When you feel ready to, we'll collect the knees into the chest, maybe a knee in each hand, or reach through for happy baby. You can catch feet, ankles, or shins, maybe lift the feet up so that they're pointing towards the ceiling. And then see what it feels like. Let the arms be really heavy here. Imagine that the knees are drawing towards the floor. And then mindful of the low back. If it's lifting far up off the floor, it might feel better to support it. And you can do that by lowering the feet down part way. And choose stillness here if that feels good. Maybe a gentle rock if that feels better. And if you still have the feet, you can lower them down to the floor and extend the legs long down the mat. And we'll find one last stretch for the shoulders. So reach the arms wide, take an inhale, and then cross the left elbow behind the right, bending the elbows for eagle arms. You can catch the hands, the backs of the hands, maybe hands to shoulders. And see what it feels like to point the hands just a little bit towards the ceiling and lift the elbows just a little bit towards the face. And then breathe into the stretch. And even here, a little rock side to side might feel nice. Other side, inhale, open the arms wide. And right behind left. Similar to the first side, see if this side needs a little different. Maybe hands lift a little further from the face. Maybe elbows lift a little further towards the face. Notice your stretch, breathe into it. Maybe a little wriggle in the spine. ready, you can release the arms, give them a little shake out, and then check in. We're heading towards rest pose, so see if your body's asking for any last quiet shape or movement. You can set that up and see what shape you want to rest in as well. Do you want the traditional Shavasana shape? Do you want to take legs up pose or legs up the wall? If you want to come back to butterfly or seated meditation, even child's pose or something like that. I'm going to come back to the butterfly shape that we started with. So soles of the feet together and knees wide, maybe a prop for the knees. But choose whatever feels the most inviting to you right now. And take your time if you want to untie hair, add layers or anything like that, and change the lighting or the temperature. And take your time to really settle into the shape. And one last scan of the body just to notice. And if you come across a spot that still feels a little tense or still feels like it's in one of the poses that we did earlier, maybe imagine you can send the breath there, see if you can soften. Eventually letting the body find stillness as you settle yourself in. slowly deepen the breath to reawaken the body. Starting to invite a little movement back as you're ready. Maybe a rock of the head, maybe movement through the hands. You can use the support of the arms to extend the legs if you like, and then find some movement there as well. Maybe swishing the feet, windshield wiper, circles for ankles, wiggling toes. If you like a full body stretch, reach the arms up overhead, lengthen. And then rolling onto a side wherever you have the most room. And take a pause for a couple of breaths. And with the support of the hands, coming up to find any comfortable seated position. And you can use any of the props that you have around. Maybe cross-legged or maybe something else. And if you know you have a classic way of crossing the legs, maybe take the awkward cross just to keep things even. And take a moment to settle in whatever is touching the floor, to lengthen the spine up, and soft shoulders, soft facial expression. For these last few moments of practice, you might take a moment to find a sense of gratitude. And maybe it's for yourself or for your practice. Maybe it's for something unrelated. Maybe just take a moment to lean into that. As you feel ready, you might connect the hands in at the heart, maybe bow the chin to the chest. And thank you for sharing your breath and your practice. Namaste. Thank you for joining me for Hatha Practice today. And again, my name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out and enjoy your week.